Thank you so much for your testimonies, and now we're open it for questions and answers.
Yes, I have my question for Ms. McPherson. Last year, I believe it was in February or in March, you did have your motion, and at the very last minute, the reference to the Palestinian state was took out. And at the time it was presented as a compromise because in return you would get the complete embargo on arms exports. Now we know that this didn't really happen. How do you feel about that?
Betrayed. I mean, that's a great question, because frankly, for Canadians across the country, we watched the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Melanie Joly, we watched the Prime Minister of the Liberal Party stand in the House of Commons and tell Canadians that they would accept an arms embargo, that they would put strong pieces forward to protect Palestinians and to uphold humanitarian law and to ensure that Canadians and Canada was no longer complicit in a genocide. And yet they did not do that. Now we know all opposition day motions are non-binding, regardless of which party brings that forward. It's something, though, that I think all Canadians should question when the government of the day stands in the House of Commons, in the People's House, and blatantly misleads Canadians as to their intentions. I think that is something we should all be deeply concerned about. I will say as well, though, that the motion to recognize the state of Palestine, it is M1. It is the first motion that is in this Parliament. That is something that we have brought forward. That is something that we will continue to be pushing for.
And as a follow-up, Minister Joly said during the summer that she suspended about 30 permits because, quote, she wanted to ask questions. Do you know what happened to that? And do you see that as fulfilling her promise of ending all arms exports to Israel?
We asked very clearly for all arms and military grade materials to stop flowing to Israel, including that material that was going through the United States. Now, this is something that is according to Canadian law. Like, let's be very, very clear. The Canadian legislation, the Arms Trade Treaty, dictates that we are not able to send weapons. It is against the law to send weapons to anywhere that may be committing a genocide. We're also signatories to the Genocide Convention, of course. So for her to say, here's a little bit, we've done a little bit, here's a little bit, trickling out information to us, providing very little information to Canadians was dishonest. And I would also say as well that even at this moment, we know that there is not a two-way arms embargo with Israel. That is a challenge and that is a problem. And we need the Canadian government to be answering for why that is the case.
Can I ask, last year when you presented that motion, the NDP had a much larger caucus. You I believe, still had the agreement with the Liberal Party. Now you reduced to a caucus of 7. The Bloc Québécois is also asking for sanctions against Israel, but they also lost a lot of MPs in the last election. What leverage do you guys have now to be pushing the Liberals to, say, apply sanctions on Israel or recognize the state of Palestine?
Well, thank you for the question, Rafi. Listen, the New Democratic Party at 7 members is still the balance of power. We still have a minority government. The government cannot pass anything without the support of other parties. They will need to work with other legislators to get anything done. And so the 7 of us that have come to Ottawa will continue to be pushing and doing this important work. But I want to be very clear. I am here raising the voices and trying to raise the issues that are being brought forward by Canadians, by heroes like the doctors that we see behind me, like the humanitarian workers who are working in Gaza. My role is to amplify those voices, the voice of the million Canadians who've written to me because they are concerned about Canada being complicit in a genocide.
I take your point about balance of power, but on these specific issues, for example, they can easily go around you guys and have the Conservatives vote with them, right? A party that is not asking
Rafi,
for
are you suggesting that the Conservatives would vote to end the genocide or recognize the state of Palestine? Because I can guarantee you that will not be the case.
No, I'm saying the Conservatives would vote against these motions, and the Liberals could easily just vote with them to bypass what the NDP and the Bloc is asking for in the new configuration of this Parliament.
Well, and I think there's something that I also want to highlight very clearly. the Minister for Foreign Affairs does not require the Parliament to do anything to recognize the state of Palestine. The Minister of Foreign Affairs can stand at this microphone. She could come down right now and recognize the state of Palestine. That is as easy as that process is. In terms of putting an arms embargo in place, that's a very easy thing for them to do without having to come to Parliament. So absolutely, we will continue to raise this issue within the House of Commons. That is my obligation as a member of Parliament. But the government can do the things that we are asking them to do without parliamentary support, if they have the political will, if they are listening to the vast majority of Canadians that want to see their government take action against a genocide.
And do you have their ear? Do you have the ear of Mr. Carney on this?
I like to think that every member of Parliament should be listened to, and I certainly like to think that I have an effective way of raising my voice. But again, I hope that he's listening to me, but I also hope that he is listening to doctors who have been there. I hope he's listening to humanitarian workers. I hope he's listening to Canadians. You know, it is clear Canadians want to see Canadian complicity in this genocide end.
And ideally, how much time, ideally, the motion have to take, to pass and, to end, to put the embargo in place?
It could be done today. It could be done now. Every piece of every work that has been outlined by these excellent spokespeople behind me could be done today. It is a failure of the Liberal government to act with the urgency necessary and to have a statement come out threatening possible sanctions at this moment, 19 months into a genocide, is appalling. I feel like I really would like to pass this to some of our excellent, so why don't I pass it to you?
I do have some additional question about your motion, though, which I haven't seen. I don't know if you made it public already.
It's on the order paper.
Okay. But can you just clarify the process? Like, when is it supposed to be called up for debate? Is it supposed to be called up for debate? And I mean, it's important. I understand, and we heard everything that was said by the other people.
So there will be a lottery for private members' business. That happens. There will be a lottery for private members' business. That is the process of every parliament, at the beginning of every parliament. That lottery hasn't taken place yet, so it will depend on where that is on the where my name is drawn on the order paper. But again, and I realize that this is important and it is an important clarification, but I want to be crystal clear. The minister could do it today. She does not require any of us to support her. She does not require anything except a microphone to be able to recognize the state of Palestine.
You asked for something else. I heard you about the arms embargo, calling for the genocide, the recognition of the Palestinian state. But is there something else you're asking? I believe some people are talking about measures against Mr. Netanyahu himself. Yeah. But what form, like concretely, what form would it take? And I mean, he's not coming to Canada anyway, so...
We would like to ensure that those sanctions are put in place for Netanyahu and for his cabinet. We would also like to ensure that Canada is revisiting the trade relationship that we have with Israel at this time. And we've released a statement on that you can visit the NDP website to see.
Sorry, go ahead.
You're first.
I'd like to hear from those of you who worked at the European hospital. When the strikes occurred earlier in May, Israel said that it was targeting underground terrorist infrastructure. And for those of you who were on the ground there, can you tell us whether you saw any evidence of any infrastructure or aware of any terrorist infrastructure on the ground?
No. I don't know what else I have to say other than that, but no. I have seen nothing. No physician, surgeon, or other volunteer internationally I have known has seen something. This includes people that have been working in Gaza with NGOs for more than 20 years. I wonder how it is thought that Palestinian people would continue to come to work, how people would bring their family members to a hospital, how international staff would keep coming to volunteer if that were the case. And I wonder why we continue to listen to the claims of the Israeli Defense Forces and we do not seek out independent verification from other sources whenever these complaints come up, as they have again and again and again, without ever having any independent corroboration.
And if there's terrorist infrastructure that's underground, is it possible that working in the hospital you wouldn't be aware of it?
I've already said my answer, that we need an independent verification of claims.
I want to thank the medical professionals for sharing their testimonies. I don't ask a question that traumatizes, but I'm wondering if one or two of you could speak about what stays with you. You talked about what you saw on the ground. I'm wondering if you're still in touch with anyone, if there's a thought that comes to your head at night, if you'd be comfortable sharing.
There's a lot of stories that keep coming back to me as I reflect on my time in Gaza, and I'm in constant communication with the team that I was part of. I called my boss when the hospital was bombed in Gaza, and he was there with a team of nurses. The nurses on the video call looked me in the eye and they said, "We're starving." And my boss was there. He was trying to organize the evacuation of the department. As you can imagine, organizing an evacuation where you have very little places to evacuate to is a near impossible project. And he had stayed there to take care of his staff and sent all the other staff home. So that's one of the stories that really stuck with me most recently in May. I also met another patient who I met in the emergency room. He was extremely sick. One of his family members actually came to the emergency room with him, was a nurse at another hospital, and was in the resuscitation bay with us while we were trying to save the patient. And I was extremely worried that the patient was going to die. When I went to go visit him on the ward, I came to understand a little bit more about his life, that he had 6 children, and he said to me, he looked at me in the eye, he said, "Why did they target me? I'm a man, I have a job, I've never been involved in politics, I don't own a gun. Why was I chosen? And will my story make a difference if it's heard by the world?" And he asked me to tell his story, so I'm sharing it with you now.
I think, like any one of us who have worked in Gaza, you meet and befriend people and you stay in touch. I think about Mohammed, I think about Abdullah. These were the Palestinian ambulance drivers that drove me and my team around as we worked at the clinics, visited European Gaza Hospital to deliver medications and supplies. And to be in touch with them, they tell me how they can't feed their children. When I was there last year, they were sharing their food with us. And to see Palestinian healthcare workers like themselves express this form of dignity and humanity to visitors, to guests on their land, they wish that they could have done more, actually. And now, I don't know what to say back to them. I don't know what to text back. Because we're witnessing in real time, live streamed, their annihilation and extermination of an entire peoples, an entire community. So I don't know what more to say to them. I don't know what more to say here.
We have time for one very last quick question.
So could I just get an assessment from Heather or anyone here about the Carney government so far? The statement from the 3 nations, the statement from Anon that Israel is using food to weaponize, and especially any non-public discussions. If you've been able to reach the minister or a PMO, are they talking about this? I realize they're not meeting the bar for what you're looking for, but I'm more curious if there has been any change under Carney before and after the election versus Trudeau.
I would like to pass this over to the doctors, but I will just say very quickly that there has been no communication. From my perspective, there has been no change. Yeah.
If I might add one thing to the stories that we hear from, Doctors Against Genocide, and we have doctors who go to Gaza all the time. One of the stories that stuck with us is a testimony from Dr. Mohammed Khuzaiz. He said, "Do you know what a starving child looks like towards the end? They can't cry. Their heart slows down, and then it just stops giving up on the world." So I want to leave you with this image. Imagine children starving, unable to cry, and then completely slowing down and stopping because this world has let them down. So I just want to leave you with that. And I have a copy of the prescription for anyone who would like it.
Thank you. This concludes the press conference. Merci, c'est ce qui conclut cette conférence de presse.